We are at a rain-hit Cadwell Park for the next round of the Aprilia RRV 450 Challenge, where our riders here are going to have to handle some pretty tricky conditions out there. Welcome to GP Racing Dream, the next step.
Welcome indeed to Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire. There's the sign, and here, the entrance to one of the great motorcycle circuits in the world. The hearts of all the racers beating just a little bit faster. Even though the weather conditions are foul, they'll be looking forward to racing on one of the great tracks. The young riders are getting ready. Steve Day is waiting for them. Steve?
The riders are on the warm-up lap for the first race of the Aprilia RRV GP race here, and James Folkard, championship leader, is in pole position. Next to him, Connor Tagg and Jake Dixon. Also look out for Jamie Thackeray. Robin, over to you.
Thanks very much, Steve. Yes, a wonderful race in prospect. The weather may be gloomy, but my goodness me, it just adds a bit of an extra challenge, and these young riders will be well up for it. James Folkard, Connor Tagg and Jake Dixon on the front row there, and the two brothers, Jamie Thackeray, 194, Luke Thackeray, 195, and the young Australian, number 72, Brad Shaw. They are the second row. Reese Rothwell, Sam Cox on the third row with Aaron Hay, but away they go for the first time. A good start, Steve, but these conditions absolutely foul, particularly if you're not in the lead.
Yes, and it's another great start for James Folkard, but Cadwell Park is tricky enough without the rain. Concentration levels have to be at 100% here, because the slightest mistake really can leave you in some danger. Oh, and there you can see a fine example, number 72, our Australian visitor, Brad Shaw, just having to sit up a little bit there, a little bit eager on the power.
Yep, bit of a twitch, but I think in these conditions, these young riders are going to be really just so pleased that they are on these incredibly nimble little Aprilias. Apart from the speed, the sheer power of the things, which is great, and they all love that, particularly a lot of them moving up from the Aprilia Super Teams. They love these 450s, but they are renowned as being incredibly easy to handle through the corners, aren't they?
They are, yes, and especially in the wets. They're testing out the new Bridgestone wets this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on for grip as well, but handling second to none. At the front then, James Folkard, championship leader. Just behind him, Jake Dixon. Those of you that watched the Aprilia Super Teams last year will remember that he's mustered in the wet. We're looking at Jordan Hole there. Connor Tagg not having the best of weekends, Robin, second in the championship at the moment.
No, Connor, for some reason, there he is. We always expect him to be up the sharp end of things, and generally is, but he just seems slightly off-key this weekend. And playing catch-up all the time, but we have noticed already, Steve, a few really impressive performances. Jordan Hole, you mentioned, appears to be getting to grips with the machine, and great to see Phil Canessa back on board.
Yeah, Phil Canessa back after an enormous crash last year at Snetterton. We've just been seeing shots there of Sam Cox, number 54, runner-up in last year's Thundersport 500 Championship. He's having a good run out, but these two are just breaking away from the pack a little bit here. And in second position, Jake Dixon. He's not letting Folkard disappear out in front like we saw at Anglesey. So the pair of them, I just don't think anyone's going to be able to catch up to them now.
And that is the very steep run down from the gooseneck through to Mansfield. As always, the camera's slightly flattening the topography there, but that is a steep drop down the hill. And look at this, Jake Dixon, number 35, really closing as they run into the bottom of the mountain. And then the pack there led in third place by number 72, Brad Shaw.
Yeah, Brad Shaw, our Australian visitor, first time on a 450 at Anglesey, and well, he's really impressed us. Great to see him in third position. Never had a podium with Thundersport GB before, so this would be a first, and he's just ahead of Connor Tagg, 100 there. There's Sam Cox, 54, then Jordan Hole, and then there'll be a little gap back to the two Thackeray's, Canessa, Strettel, etc.
Here they come, then Bradshaw, this is the chasing pack, followed by Connor Tagg and Sam Cox, and there a much improved Jordan Holt looking very impressive, coming down through Barn and across the line. The leaders already up through Coppice towards Charlie's, James Folkard and Jake Dixon. There we see the young Australian. I remember, Steve, last year somebody saying, oh, well, Bradshaw, he's not going to be particularly impressive in the wet. He comes to Australia. I have to say, I was over in Australia in the winter, and I was in Queensland, and an area the size of France and Germany was underwater. They do know a thing about wet weather over there.
They certainly do, yes, and he's no stranger to Phillip Island, so he's used to the wind, and he is used to the wet as well, which comes in handy, especially seeing as we went to Anglesey last time in the wind, and Cadwell Park here in the rain. At the moment, Folkard still got around about a 1.5 2-second lead over Jake Dixon, but Jake is very good in the wet, and he'll just be monitoring to see where he thinks he may be able to catch up with the championship leader there, who runs a little bit wide on exit of the chicane there, and that's pretty slippery on that white line.
You do not want to get on the paint, do you? That way madness lies. Look at them, they're all pushing it out there from the chicane. Connor Tagg there in 4th place. Connor's lap times are coming down, and they're matching those of Bradshaw ahead of him. So this a better race for Connor, but the 2 leaders are way up over the mountain and down into Hall Bends here. They then get down, they've already gone through. There's that chase behind, and there we see Jordan Hull still with Sam Cox ahead of him. There, Sam Cox, number 54, on cue, and Jordan Hull trying to stay in touch with that chasing group. It's still James Folkard, number 43, that leads, the lad from Liverpool, and grown very tall as well. Oh, and down, that's Sam Cox, and that looks like Barn, and he's just slid into the barrier there, and his first concern is for the bike. He's really buried that under there, Steve.
He has, yes. One of the big problems with Barn, of course, with the overhanging trees, especially in the wet, if you go even slightly offline, it's very slippery. You get a lot of moss, leaves, etc. So if you've not got the right line and you've not committed to the corner, maybe he's tapped on the brakes as well, then it's a tricky corner to navigate. At the front then, Folkard still leads, championship leader from Jake Dixon. These 450s, remember, ex-Supermoto machines. We spoke to the man that made it all happen, Ian Newton, back at Anglesey, and we're hoping to have a full grid of 20 of these ready for Mallory Park next round. That will be fantastic.
There we see Jake Dixon. And of course, one of the things about young Jake, we've said how good he is in the wet conditions. There's Bradshaw and Connor Tagg in 3rd and 4th. We've said how good Jake is in the wet conditions, but almost unusually, he's just as brilliant in the dry. Sometimes you get wet weather specialists that actually love splashing around.
Oh, a massive moment there, sorry to interrupt, but James Folkard on the exit of Barn, well, he almost lost it. How he kept it up, he shakes his head as he goes across the line. That will give Dixon some newfound confidence, but I know what you mean. He's great in the dry, he's great in the wet, but now his tail will be up because he'll have seen every single bit of that.
And James Folkard, you could see with the nod of his head there, it was almost an admission to himself. Whoops, I got away with that one. There's the lovely chase behind Bradshaw and Connor Tagg. And look at this up the front, though. It's Jake Dixon outbraking James Folkard at the top of the hill as they go around Chris Curve. That was a fantastic move, Steve. He carried the speed all the way up Park Straight. But that's big and brave in these conditions.
It is, yeah, but I think a lot of that might be down to mind games and confidence. Folkard, having just had that major wobble, will be thinking, you know what, I'm leading the championship. I need to get some points here. The last thing I need to be doing is throwing it down the road, and I think he's just closed off a little bit. Jake Dixon, meanwhile, has seen it all happen, thinking, well, I'm all right. I'm going to go straight past you, mate.
I'll have a piece of this, yes. There they go, into the bottom of the mountain. Now, for the first time in this race, Jake Dixon leading from James Folkard, 35 from 43, and these two are handsomely away up the road. They're in no danger of being caught by this little battle behind, but this is what it's all about for the 3rd podium place.
Yes, Bradshaw never had a podium to his name. Connor Tagg, plenty of them, so Connor will know what he's got to do on this last lap, but he won't be wanting to make any silly moves. Connor himself knows that points are all too important here. There is 3rd place man, Australian Bradshaw, just behind him, Connor Tagg. And as they make their way past Coppice into Charlie's Inn here, Konatag really needs to get some good drive out of Charlie's out if he's going to have any chance of doing it. Meanwhile, at the front here, has Folkard got a little bit left in him?
Well, he closes, doesn't he, up at the very point where he was overtaken, and he tries to do to Jake Dixon what Dixie did to him, but he can't quite get round. They run down towards the top of the gooseneck for the last time, and then this steep hill all the way down, and you've got to be very careful down there, Steve. These conditions notwithstanding, that is a difficult place to overtake.
Yeah, Mansfield's disgusting in the wet, and there isn't any, really. In these conditions, from here on in, there's nowhere to overtake unless you are really brave, and I think you can see that from Folkard. He's just rolled off the throttle a little bit. He's going to hand the win here to Jake Dixon. Effortless ride from Jake Dixon. He almost just floats the bike through Hall Bends here. Very relaxed riding style, and a great victory here for young Dixie.
Fantastic stuff. Look, he's just absolutely mastered that machine, hasn't he? He was, you could see he was enjoying that, running up the hill, and he'll enjoy this even more, coming down from Barn and seeing the checker flag. A great win there for Jake Dixon. Looks over his shoulder, celebrates that. Yes, it's me. Yeah, that's right. Keep waving to his dad. Yeah. That was beautifully done, Steve.
Yeah, fantastic ride from Jake, and just everything he did was right. He sat behind Folkard and then waited to pounce after Folkard made the mistake, and, well, Folkard will be happy to take 20 points, bearing in mind Konatag finished 4th behind Bradshaw.
And the great thing about these young riders, you can see the spirit. They're all great mates as well. Dixon the win then from Folkard and Shaw. Konatag 4th, Jordan Holt, Phil Canessa, Tom Strettle, Jamie Thackeray, Michael Clifford and Blake Wools, the top 10. There on the podium, Jake Dixon in the middle, James Folkard and Bradshaw.
Winner of that race, Jake Dixon. Jake, it's been a good weekend for you so far. You won 2 races yesterday, and we always knew you were good in the wet, but a great win there.
Yeah, it was a brilliant win. We thought James Folkard was getting away a bit towards the end because I started to make a few mistakes, and he obviously didn't make no mistakes, but then he had a really big moment out of Barn, which put me back in the game, and then I just got onto the back of him and just started putting in some good lap times and just carried on going, and he just cracked under pressure, really.
How good are these bikes to ride in the wet?
Yeah, they're really hard, to be honest, because you can't really come out in a high gear and keep it revving. You have to come out in a low gear and just drive it out, so, yeah.
And plenty of people to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Buttons, my dad, for helping me set up the suspension this weekend again. It's been brilliant.
OK, well done to you. We'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, cheers.